This is the rule for dividing fractions. If you have a fraction a over b and you want to divide it by another fraction, c over d, you take your first fraction and copy it down again, leave it as a over b, change your division sign to a multiplication sign, and then find the reciprocal or flip your divisor and make it, in this case, d over c. So to divide fractions, find the reciprocal, left out the word the there, to divide fractions, find the reciprocal of the divisor, and that divisor is your second fraction. And once you find the reciprocal of your divisor, then you use your multiplication rules. Let's make sure we understand what we mean by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of a number a is 1 over a, for a not equal to 0. You can't find the reciprocal of 0, but for any other number, the reciprocal is just what you get when you flip the number over. Now let's look at some examples. Suppose we want to find the reciprocal of 3/4. The reciprocal of 3/4 is just going to be 4/3. Notice if you multiply a number by its reciprocal, you'll end up with 1. Let's look at another example. If we wanted to find the reciprocal of 5, it would be easier if we make 5 look like a fraction first. So if we put 5 over 1, then flip it, we'll come up with 1/5. The reciprocal of 5 is 1/5. And then if we want to find the reciprocal of a mixed number, what we need to do first is make that mixed number an improper fraction. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 gives us 8/3. And then we can find the reciprocal of 8/3, and that is 3/8. So 3/8 would be the reciprocal of 2 2/3. If you take a number and multiply it by its reciprocal, you'll always get 1. Now we need to know how to find the reciprocal so we can do our division. Let's begin by taking 1/3 and dividing it by 1/6. So we follow our rule. Our rule says write the first fraction down just as it is, change the division sign to a multiplication sign, and then find the reciprocal of our divisor or of our second fraction. So the reciprocal of 1/6 is going to be 6/1. Now as soon as I do this, I'm ready to multiply. Remember, we need to reduce first. So if we reduce, 3 will go into 3 one time, 3 will go into 6 two times. So when I multiply, 1 times 2 is 2. Remember, numerator by numerator, denominator by denominator. 1 times 1 gives me 1. So I end up with 2/1, which is actually 2. Let's look at another example. Suppose I want to do 4/5 divided by 5/8. It's very tempting in this to start doing some canceling or to start reducing or dividing out common factors. But you're only allowed to reduce or to divide out the common factors when it's multiplication. So we need to make it multiplication first before we start trying to decide whether or not we can reduce. So if we turn this into multiplication, we write our first fraction down, change the division sign to a multiplication sign, and then we find the reciprocal of our divisor. So the reciprocal of 5/8 is 8/5. Now we look to see if we can reduce. Now that we've done the reciprocal, we're not going to be able to do any reducing. So we go ahead and multiply. 4 times 8 is 32. 5 times 5 is 25. So our answer is 32/25. It's fine to leave it that way because there are no common factors, or you can divide 25 into 32 and turn it back into a mixed number. 25 will go into 32 one time. 1 times 25 is 25. And when we subtract, we're going to have 7 left. So we could say our answer could either be 32/25 or 1 whole and 7/25. Both answers are acceptable. Now let's do some division with mixed numbers. Well, actually we have a whole number and a mixed number. So the first thing we're going to do is make everything look like improper fractions. So I'm going to change my 4 to 4/1. I'm going to keep my dividing by sign, and I'm not going to worry about the reciprocal yet. I'm going to turn my 2½ into an improper fraction. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 gives me 5 halves. So now my problem is 4/1 divided by 5 halves. Now I'm ready to turn it into multiplying. So I keep my 4/1, change my division sign to a multiplication sign, and change my 5 halves to 2/5. Now look to see if I can do any reducing. In this case I can't. So when I multiply numerator by numerator, I get 8. Denominator by denominator gives me 5. So I get 8/5. It's fine to leave the answer like that. Or I could say my answer is 1 because 5 goes into 8 one time. And I have 3 left over. So I could say it's 1 3/5. So either 8/5 or 1 3/5 would be acceptable answers. Let's do another one. This time we'll do 2 2/7 divided by 32. So the first thing we want to do is to make everything look like single fractions. So we'll change the first one into an improper fraction. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 2 would give us 16/7 divided by, and we need to make that 32 look like a fraction, so we'll put a 1 under. So we have 16/7 divided by 32/1. So now we're ready to turn it into multiplication. We keep our first fraction the way it is, change our division to multiplication, and invert or find the reciprocal of our second fraction. That would give us 1/32. Our second fraction is our divisor. So now we're ready to multiply, but we need to reduce first. You'll notice 16 will go into 32, so let's just cancel that out, or divide 16 into 32. 16 goes into 16 once, and to 32 twice. So I'm left with 1 times 1, which is 1, and 7 times 2, which is 14. So my answer is 1/14.